Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another Here Journal video. It's good to be back with you. We missed you last week, so we did shoot a video, and then later in the weekend, we realized there were some technical difficulties, and it being Easter, we thought we'll just come back next week. And so some of our old Here Journals will probably make an appearance in this one. In fact, I think
actually I'm doing.
You loved yours so
week.
much.
I did.
I like that. That's
I
right.
didn't want to miss out because I enjoyed the little nugget of truth in this one.
Well, then mine's gonna be a mixed from last week and this week, and then yours will just be from last week. So we'll kind of touch on both. Yeah. So, but it's good to be back with you. We had a wonderful time during Easter. What a great time. And
great.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and let's jump on in.
Sure.
Let's see what we got, honey.
Sounds
you can
good.
go ahead and go first if you like.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, mine. So with it being last week, it was from 2 Corinthians 2 verses 14 through 16.
That's not where we're at, babe.
I know. That's okay. I'll catch up evenally with this week then. But once again, for those who are hopping on for the first time, as a simple reminder before we dive in, we are doing this from the HEAR method, and that is an acronym for highlight, explain, apply, and respond. It's just a way to read scripture where we highlight the verse, we explain the context of the verse, maybe who the speaker is or who the audience is. We then apply it to our time, to our life, and then we respond. We have an action step behind it.
And we're doing this we're doing this from the Bible reading plan we're all doing, yourcpc.church/rooted, if you would like to join us.
Yes.
Jump on in wherever we are and pick up and
don't feel like you have to catch up if you're even watching this and you're behind, or I mean, it'd be obviously good to, but
don't use that as an excuse. I can, some people, I get that, I understand that, but just jump on in and
you'll get more than if you didn't. So good stuff. Okay, so I'll jump in. Once again, that was 2 Corinthians 2 verses 14 through 16. It says, "But thanks be to God, who always leads us in Christ's triumphal procession, and through us spreads the aroma of knowledge of him in every place. For to God we are the fragrance of Christ among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. To some we are an aroma of death, leading to death, but to others an aroma of life, leading to life." I picked this one because I was interested in why we were talking about smells.
I feel like I've heard this somewhere.
Yeah, maybe last week when we did it, that it was not filmed properly, unfortunately. But yeah, I liked the smell aspect of it. I was genuinely just picking it because of that. And we're the fragrance of Christ, the aroma. What could that possibly mean? I went ahead and looked this one up, and I can imagine here Paul was not being random, so I was thinking there has to be a reason he's wording it this way. I was correct in that. And Paul, of course, you have to remember the Corinthian church, and even where Paul was writing from in Macedonia, they were under heavy Roman influence at the time. And so what Paul was describing here was something that the reader, who was the Corinthian church, would have known already. And what this was that he is talking about, he was addressing, it was called a triumph. And so it was basically a Roman parade that whenever the Roman soldiers and the generals would win a battle, they would come back home, essentially, and they would parade through the streets. And what they would do is they would burn incense. They would have celebratory, you can imagine just this big crowd on each side. It's probably loud. It's exciting. The general is excited. He's actually dressed up in his best gear. And they would burn this incense along the route that they would walk. And it would be almost that incense, that aroma that would come from this became associated with the smell of success. It became an aroma of success for them. But then the dual-sidedness of this was that it became an aroma of death to certain people. And that was, they would actually take captive some of the enemies in battle, and they would carry them behind them, drag them behind. And this would be the aroma of death because they were going to their execution. They were going to execute these captives. And so this triumph, it was a common practice that they would practice. And so this idea of a triumph of Christ, this triumphal procession, this would have not been new news to them. They would have immediately had the imagery, the smell of success, of triumphs, of the Roman influence that they had. So I thought that was really a fun little nugget. The fact here that read this passage again now. And so thinking about who always, thanks be to God, who always leads us in Christ's triumphal procession. He talks about, for to God, we are the fragrance of Christ. And it does mention, to some we are an aroma of death, leading to death, and some we are an aroma of life, leading to life. He is saying here, he is the general, he is the leader, he's the one who is leading this victorious procession. And we are the aroma that is being spread. We are the ones who is permeating the knowledge of Christ to everyone around us. We are basically carrying the presence of the Lord. We are the ability to spread the knowledge and the gospel and the truth of Christ in every place, and that it will be known that he is our victorious leader. I just love the dual-sidedness there. But catch this too. The fact that, yes, we are the believers, we are spreading that, and we are given that purpose, but unfortunately to some we are an aroma of death leading to death. To those who do not, who are held captive, I guess, who are not the ones following Christ, unfortunately, that not everyone is going to respond to this knowledge of Christ. They are going to deny it. And to those people, it is the aroma of death leading to death. And that is a sad story, but ultimately it is those who are rejecting him. And that's why this aroma that is mentioned here has those dual effects. So I just think that's a really neat comparison. I can imagine as a Roman influenced Corinthian, that this is a very beautiful image. So that being said, my apply here is that we are not the generals. I wanted to say that first off. We are followers. We are the ones. We are the aroma of Christ. We are the spreaders of the knowledge of Christ, of his presence. We are, in our very lives, in our walk as we walk with him, we are carrying God's victory in his presence. We're used to spread his presence. We're used to spread the knowledge to our workplace, our family, even in the church, wherever we go, in the Walmart, right? In the grocery store. We spread him with just the very walk that we walk with him. So, and we should showcase his glory and make his presence known in that way. So, it's a simple response. In my response, it's that, how are we spreading the gospel, the knowledge of Christ? Are we truly the aroma that is leading to life? And that's just the challenge of how can we respond to that. So I find that I write simple respances, but I mean, it's a challenge. Like, how can we truly? The action step. What's the actual way that I can do that? So how can I walk through and respond in such a way through the grocery store? How can I walk through it with our family, with our children?
So to be more mindful about how you can start kind of taking advantage of those moments. Yeah.
Am I doing everything that I possibly can to spread the knowledge of Christ?
I think last week I asked the question of, I think when I was younger, I thought to myself, let's take tomatoes, if you remember now. I like the taste of tomatoes.
Yeah.
You don't like tomatoes.
Right.
And I've asked the question of, do you taste the same taste that I'm tasting, and you just don't like that taste, or does it give you a different flavor, and that's the flavor you don't like because it's the same aroma, but they just don't. It's because of the context. It's because of the dual effect. Their standing, that they don't care for it. And so sometimes the way that we are communicating, we need to make sure that we're doing the best job that we can. But sometimes the appropriate smell will just not be pleasant for some people. And I think that's a good reminder that when we're trying to communicate the gospel, sometimes people just aren't in a position to receive it in that moment, and so it's just it's a good encouragement to say, it is what it is. I'm going to do my best. And it's just not, you can't you can't be changing colognes willy-nilly just to appease certain people. Yep. No,
that's really good. That's a great addition to that. Excellent.
No, it's good stuff. I like it. Do I proceed, or do you have more?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
That was it.
Okay.
It was. I was happy to share it last week.
I like it.
This week.
I love it. It's very creative. The illustration's really nice. good visual.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't have such a visual, but that's okay. It reminds me of my Here Journal from last week, and then coming off of Easter, it seemed to be appropriate. And you shared, I was in the New Testament, and you shared Psalm 39. You said you liked it, and so I thought, I'll do a Here Journal off of this. Psalm 39, 4-7. Lord, remind me how brief my time on earth will be. Remind me that my days are numbered, how fleeting my life is. You have made my life no longer than the width of my hand. My entire lifetime is just a moment to you. At best, each of us is but a breath, but we are merely moving shadows, and all our busy rushing ends in nothing. We heap up wealth, not knowing who will spend it. And so, Lord, where do I put my hope? My only hope is in you. I love that last piece.
Yeah.
The whole going into the explain, the whole passage is this kind of, I don't want to say nihilistic, but very realistic, very just kind of down in the dumps. This is life. And then he says, where do I put my hope? This rhetorical, because he's going to say, my only hope is in you. And I think this kind of follows a good Easter message, which is, it is only through Christ that we make it out alive, right? And so we know earlier in the chapter, he starts off by, he doesn't want to complain. He doesn't want people seeing him complain, but his heart is just really groaning in this moment. And being on the run, you can imagine he's feeling the weight of the situation he's in, realizing that his life is only a fleeting moment. And what's crazy is now thousands of years later, we see, I mean, even several thousand years ago, we see this individual feeling the same feelings that we feel today, that, man, my life is here one moment, going on the next.
Really, has it?
He uses the measurement of the hand, and in the ancient world, that's one of the smallest measurements they would use. And so he's saying, my life is over in just a blip. He says it's merely moving shadows. I love this part. Yeah. All our busy rushing ends in nothing. I think this, for me, almost moving to, I'd say we'll move to the apply. My explain is pretty brief. Moving to the apply, I kind of like this passage, this part that says all our busy rushing ends in nothing. I think this is a fantastic reminder of all the busyness that we do. Try to think of it from the perspective of a year from the end of your life, 5 years, 10 years. Yeah. All the rushing that we did, it's going to be over. I've heard before, people are going to own your possessions. They're going to live in the house that you built. And this is a horrible feeling, but I think in the right perspective, it's a freeing feeling. And I think coming off of Easter, I think it's a good reminder that it is the promise of Easter that we can make it out of this. It's to, I think, encourage us and rush us along in the here and now, to encourage us to live out the faith that we need to live out. Some of us have probably been hanging on to the tomorrow mentality for too long, and 10, 15 years has passed, or maybe their entire life. It's never too late.
Yeah.
But there is a finite amount of time. And so there's both the encouragement, I think the supply really is the encouragement of the here and now, but it's also the reminder that we do have the hope. It's the last part of the passage. Where is my hope? My hope is in you. Right. And so to kind of piggyback off of Easter and piggyback off of my last Here Journal, where Paul was talking about how he makes us a new body, Jesus reigns, and he comes down when God makes the new heaven and the new earth, and he really brings heaven to us, doesn't he? And we live in this new world. In modern terms, new universe, new state of existence. And last week I touched on this interesting idea that I'll share, and then I'll probably end with this. I like how Dr. William Craig talks about eschatology, which is the study of the end for Christians, and the Revelation is in the field of eschatology. How is it all gonna go down? And Dr. Craig, I love this, but he invites the listener to realize and just accept the truth that we as Christians are also human beings. Yeah. We believe in Jesus, but there's that Thomas in us, there's that soldier in us that struggles with the doubt. And when we think about God coming back, when we think about Jesus coming back, there's this level of like, is he really going to do that? I mean, what would that even look like? I mean, that's so fantastic to think about, that Jesus will come back and make everything new. We believe it. But to live as though we believe it is a whole nother story, and to really 100% believe it with confidence. And he says, if you have a hard time believing that God can come and make a new heavens and a new earth, he says there is now a field in cosmology in science called physical eschatology. They have taken on our phrasing, and they have physical eschatology, where they consider how will the universe possibly end. This is on a scientific perspective. So this is assuming that there is no God that will intervene. This is if the world plays out the way it's going to play out. Right. What is it going to look like? And there is this understanding I think it would belong to quantum physics, but there's this understanding that the universe is in such a state, I think it's called a false vacuum state, that there could technically be a shift within the heart of what makes the universe what it is. The view goes like this. Imagine a ball sitting in the middle of a mountain, not at the bottom, not at the top, but just halfway. The ball is sitting in a little nook. If there was an earthquake and the ball shook loose, even though it's right now stationary, it could fall to the true bottom. The scientists suggest that the universe is kind of like that ball. It's stable, it's stationary, it hasn't changed since we've had it, but it's technically not in the final state that it could be in. And there could be a shift that brings it to the bottom of the mountain. What would that do? It would change the laws of physics, it would change the laws of gravity, it would change the laws of thermodynamics, and the universe, faster than the speed of light, would become changed and new and different, really ending the old universe. And so, does this mean it's going to happen? That's not what I'm saying. The chances of it happening on its own is so infinitesimal that they don't even worry about it. But with God, there is no randomness if there is somebody that wants to bring it about. Now, the reason I bring this up and the reason why I find it so fascinating is Dr. Craig goes on to say this. He goes, if you have a hard time as a skeptic or as an unbeliever or even as a Christian, if you have a hard time thinking about Jesus really coming back and really making the universe new, he says, realize that it is a belief in physical science that the universe can, in the blink of an eye, all things become new. And that just rattles my brain. Both are hard to conceive. Yeah. And so I'll say this last piece. As we're thinking about Paul and we're thinking about David and we're thinking about how life comes to an end, what comes after, it reminded me of a conversation that I had with a friend once who told me, he says, I just have a hard time. He goes, I want to come to Christ, but I have a hard time really imagining Jesus, say, walking on water. I have such a hard time imagining that he really genuinely in real life did these things. And I told him, I said, imagine, if you would, a asteroid the size of Texas hurling at the earth right to Missouri. I want you to imagine looking up and seeing what that would look like. Is that hard to imagine? He goes, oh, absolutely. You can conceive of it. It's easy to conceive of, but to imagine it is hard. I said, doesn't that feel like science fiction? He goes, oh yeah, 100%. I said, but we know physically it's possible. I don't know about you, but for me, thinking of it like that, I get the same feeling. And so what that teaches us is that what we can imagine, what we can challenge ourselves to believe, should not determine what we do in fact believe, right? Yeah. I say, imagine being on the event horizon of a black hole. How insane would that be? It feels like science fiction, but there is a place out there where you could do that. And it really clashes with our ability to imagine and our ability to trust, right? And so I think a lot of Christians we love to say these passages and we love to quote Paul and we love to look to David, but we don't live with that confidence. We don't live with that hope. We don't live with that trust. And so I just want to encourage us and encourage those listening at home that don't allow what you can imagine to determine what you believe and what you commit your life to. It's hard to imagine Jesus doing these things, but I love what's been said that if God really created the universe out of nothing, the resurrection of Jesus is child's play. Right. Walking the water is child's play. Something is hard to believe until you've seen it. I've never seen green lightning. That feels so sci-fi to me. But the other day, I saw something kind of flicker and explode, and I don't know what caused it, but there was this like green jolt of what looked like lightning to me because it hit something, and I remember thinking, oh, before this day, I would have thought green lightning was insane, but the second I see it, now it becomes something easily to, right? And so since we haven't seen Jesus do these things, since we haven't had the privilege of walking with him, it's hard for us to really live in this truth of my hope is in you, as David concludes. My hope is in you, that at the end of the day, you get me out of this. It's hard to imagine, but we should encourage ourselves to trust all the same, because one day the day will come where we'll look back and we'll go, remember when this was so hard? Weren't we so full of doubt? Weren't we so immature? This is really how the world is, and we were living behind the veil, as Paul talks about, that one day we will see clearly, and it's going to be beautiful. So that's good. That's what I got. And then my response really is just to live out that application, is to not allow what I can imagine determine what I believe. And we can look forward to that day and really believe it, that he is coming back. We say it, but when we say it, it's almost like a cry for help. It's a cry for hope.
Right.
But to believe he really is coming again is a beautiful. It really kind of brings together the ending of that passage from David when he says, "Where do I put my hope? My only hope is in you."
Yeah, that's really good.
That's what I got.
That's really good. Yeah, I mean, I love the make me aware of my end and
yes.
remind me my days are numbered. Like, don't let me forget or sleep on the fact that you're coming soon.
We can't imagine the end of our life. There's another one. We live as though we'll live forever.
Right.
We don't think about it. It's so far off until the day comes where we go, oh, this is a reality. Right. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a scary passage, but it brings us hope, I think.
When our hope is in him.
That's right. That's what we wait for. Yeah, so that was my best attempt of blending the two.
Yeah,
so,
no, it was really good.
No, this is fun. I hope you enjoyed spending time with us and diving into the Word with us. I hope that you are also getting into the Word and writing your own hero journals and really developing that disciplined walk that we all need to be partaking in. And so we enjoy this time with you all. We love you, and we'll see you next time.